Welcome to Running the Defense, your weekly dose of insights, strategies, and real-world stories from the front lines of insurance defense. I'm Greg Lois. Join me as we explore what it really takes to run a great defense firm.
How do I know I'm being successful here? That's the question that was posed to me today in an attorney interview that I just held a few hours ago right here in this office. And I was like, wow, what a good question. And that sort of triggered the conversation that I want to have today with you on the podcast. So how do we know someone's being successful here? And what do you do? I mean, you're a business owner and a candidate, someone that you're conversing with, and you're trying to explain to them what the business is like and what the company is like. When they ask you that great question, hey, how do I know I'm being successful here? What does success look like? Now, the answer to that, to unravel that, I'm going to answer it two ways. First, I'm going to answer it for the actual attorneys that are interviewing here and for people that are interviewing with us. But then I also want to give business owners sort of an idea of how maybe you should approach that question. So I think it's very important for any business to have a very clear vision of where the company is going, to know what your mission is, like who is it that you're serving and how do you define that? And then to have a very clear set of values. That's really what you should start with. And not a lot of businesses start with that, right? I mean, I can tell you when I started my business, I was pretty much like, I really am unhappy where I am and I really got to try something different. In fact, it was probably even a little bit more simple than that. My wife literally said to me on a family vacation, literally just a few weeks before I started up this company, she said, could you please stop complaining about where you work? And could you please just start your own business? Could you please essentially, put up or shut up? I can't hear you whining anymore. If you have such great ideas, go do them, right? I did not start with a very clear vision of what I wanted to be or what I wanted to create. I don't think a lot of business owners do. I think a lot of business owners either say, hey, I could do this better, or hey, this is something that's on my heart to do. But the big, bold vision, the one that draws people to you and the one that's going to sustain you when you have problems, you've got to come up with that. And to be successful, you have to have a vision. You have to have a direction you're going in. And to be really successful, to have a vision that attracts other people to you, right? I mean, if you have a vision that says, hey, I just really want to buy a really nice bass fishing boat, or I want to have really great vacations, that's not a compelling vision for other people. They're not going to want to join in, and they're not going to see how they win when you explain that vision to them. So your vision has to be encompassing other people, or at least something that they want for themselves. The next thing is you have to have a company mission, right? A really clear definition of who we serve. And if you think about it, all the great companies, you can explain what they do in pretty much one sentence. We're a soda manufacturer. Well, what do? We add some sugar, some fizz, and we sell that, right? I mean, that's the thing they do. What would Xerox's mission be? Like, well, we copy paper onto other paper or whatever it is. For our law firm, our mission is we serve employers. We defend employment. We defend employers, right? Pretty clear, simple mission. And then the thing that actually animates the company is the values. That's the stuff that's a lot easier to hook into. It's a lot easier to explain. It's a lot easier to measure, and it's a lot easier to rally people around. And also values really are how we run our day to day. Sometimes the vision feels far away. The mission, maybe we're not constantly connecting to it all the time. But if everyone has a shared sense of values or alignment around values, I'm going to promise you that you're going to have an easier time running your business. So those three things, vision, mission, values, you have to have them. And so when this candidate asked me that question, and it was a great question. I think it's the first time someone's asked me that question, like, what does success look like here? How do I know I've been successful? I started off by saying, well, I know what success looks like because the person is living according to and in alignment with our company values. Now, our company values here at Lois, we have 4 company values that we talk about all the time. In fact, when you start your career here at Lois, you spend your first day with me going through what is our mission, what is our vision, And then I very carefully and very slowly go through the 4 values that we rally around. They're really the core 4 behaviors that we have, that we look for, that we try to inculcate and develop. It's the 4 values that have made me successful and have allowed this company to be successful. And so when this person asked me the question, hey, how do I be successful here? Well, I was able to give them a pretty succinct answer. And I was in the interview, I had one of my partners in the interview with me because we like to interview in pairs. And, the question came out and I think she started smiling while I was giving my response because she's like, oh yeah, I've heard this many times before. The successful employee at Lois is creative. They have to bring their creativity to work. They have to try to solve problems in a unique way. They have to approach problems from a unique perspective. And they have to demonstrate creativity in the work that they do. And that's on the work side of it, right? Those are how that looks. And I can tell when an attorney in particular is starting to really feel comfortable here and they're feeling like they get it and they're kind of on the curve. It's because they're starting to try out of the box things in their cases. When I see an attorney and they smile at me and they go, you're not going to believe what worked. I tried this tactic. You won't believe what question I just asked on cross-examination, and you will not believe what the other side's expert said after I asked that question. Well, that's when I know their juices are flowing. They're on the curve. They're starting to get it. And to get there is not easy, right? I mean, to demonstrate creativity in an area like the practice of law it's tough because there's a huge natural barrier to being creative. And the natural barrier is, first, you have to be really competent. Like, you have to know the law inside and out. You need to know your case inside and out. You need to know who your adversary is, who the judge is. And then you have to know all of the different tools that are in your toolbox, your tactics, your patterns, the techniques that have worked in the past. So really, in order to be creative, you have to be able to build on sort of the prior art that's already existing. So my first answer was, well, I know someone's successful here, and I think they feel successful when they're able to be creative in their cases, when they're able to start bringing themselves to work and say, hey, I'm going to look at this case as an opportunity, as a chance, as a unique opportunity for me to try something different that maybe nobody's tried before. I'm going to swing for the fences. I'm going to go out on a limb. I'm going to push out to the edges. When they're bringing their full self to work, and that means they're bringing their creativity to these cases, I think they're more fulfilled as an employee. And I also think that they're doing better work for the clients when they're trying to push that edge, when they are trying to find the new pattern or anti-pattern, which is going to work this time, right? So, my first answer was creativity. Now, creativity also works another way, and that's internally. And I think that a creative person is probably someone who's curious, who's open to criticism or receiving feedback, and who's wondering how other people are doing it. And the most successful attorneys that I work with have all of those attributes. A successful attorney has to have some natural curiosity. Hey, what is working in other places? It's the curiosity of when you start reading case law or decisions and start saying, well, why did the court reason it that way? Or why was that the outcome? You've got to have that creative juice that's flowing. And I'm hoping that you enjoy whatever substantive area of law that you're practicing in, that you still bring yourself to work and you still think, hey, this is an interesting area of law. I want to learn all the nooks and crannies of it. I want to figure out where all the edge cases are because once you're really good at something, you're competent, you can start to see all the edge cases. I mean, the creativity is the thing that helps you start to, foresee the future. You can kind of look into the future a little bit. So that's the stuff I love. And in the workplace, it's someone who's curious. It's someone who's open to learning, right? At Lois, at our company, we're a learning organization. Everyone is going through training every single month. Yeah, we're offering CLE classes for attorneys, but we're also offering practical skills series for attorneys. We're going through substantive case law every single month. The average attorney is in 3 or 4 hours of substantive CLE and non-CLE training every month. And the kind of person who enjoys that, the person who enjoys going back to school, that person that has that curiosity or interest and is open to it, the person who's open to feedback or learning new patterns. The opposite of creativity is feeling like you know it all, you've seen it all, there's nothing new invented. And sometimes I see that in my most experienced practitioners. The most experienced practitioner who says, I've done this for a million years. I know what works. I'm only going to make the same 3 arguments because those 3 arguments are the ones that, work for me, or maybe get sustained by the appellate division or whatever their, internal rationale for that behavior is. But that openness to learning, and that there are other ideas out there. And some of our best ideas, I'll tell you, sitting here as a business owner, some of my best ideas come from far away from the world of law. Some of the resources and the people and the coaches and the friends that I've assembled sort of around me are people that are going to expose me to different areas of business or different areas so that you got more of like a liberal arts approach to things, where you're saying, hey, I'm willing to take the best of, hey, what these people have discovered over here, and I'm going to take a little bit best over here from the technology world. I'm going to try to meld it together into something useful. Like, that's successful. Creativity also means open to feedback, right? And there's multiple kinds of feedback. There's the school of hard knocks, right? There's feedback you're going to try stuff if you're a creative person, if you're approaching relatedness to clients creatively, if you're approaching your cases creatively, sometimes it's not going to work. You're going to try a lot of stuff that's maybe not going to be immediately successful. And you have to say to yourself, okay, I just learned another way that didn't work, right? I just learned, something else not to do again. And that's fine. A lot of what I tell people is, hey, I'm not sitting here saying, I'm Greg Lois, I'm 50 years old, and I figured it all out, just do what I do. I'm really sitting in front of people saying, hey, I'm 50 years old, I've owned this business for a decade, and I've failed a lot. And I'm not smarter than you, I've just failed more often than you have and learned from it, right? Because that's the next part, you got to learn from it. So there's the school of hard knocks that's going to give you feedbacks. The school of failure is going to give you feedbacks. But also, if you're surrounding yourself with like-minded people and you've built a community around you, you're going to get feedback from them. And one of the things that I think is wonderful about this firm is you've got 50 attorneys around you, more than 50 attorneys, and we all do the same thing. We all are trying the same cases. We're all appearing before the same judges. We're all battling the same opposing counsel. And so, you're surrounded by a group of people that when you bring an issue that might be novel to you, or maybe you haven't seen one of those yet, but you bring it to someone else who said, yeah, I've already handled that. I've seen those things. Here's some feedback that you should take, or that's looking at your work, right? There's cases that I've handled. I've done the cross-examination. I turn it over to someone else to write the brief, and they're working on the brief going, you should have asked this. You should have asked that, Greg. Why did you forget about this one? And how come this question you let them off the hook? You didn't let them answer the whole question. That type of feedback that you're going to get from your peers, invaluable, right? So this is a long-winded response, but one of the first things I said, and he said, what does success look like here? I said, well, success looks like you're creative. You're bringing your creativity to work. And I think that's where there's a lot of joy. And I think that's where there's a lot of fulfillment and fun in doing what we do, is in trying new things and seeing what works. So, creativity. So I could tell when someone's flourishing, when someone's successful here, when they're starting to feel creative. And you can see it. I can see it in people's eyes. In the beginning, you're maybe workers' compensation defense might be new to them, right? Maybe our area of practice might be new to them. In the beginning, they're swimming as fast as they can just to keep up. They're running while the rest of us are walking. And after a while, they catch up. And when they do, I know that it's clicking for them when they grab my shoulder in the hallway, or I see them in somebody else's office and I say, what's going on? They go, you're not going to believe this. And they tell you the story of something they tried and the result they obtained. And there's just such enjoyment on their faces. And honestly, that's the best feeling. When you feel like, hey, they're enjoying this, they're flourishing at this. This is a great thing to observe. So my first answer was when I see people starting to feel creative. Okay. The second thing I said is people that are successful here all have the heart of a servant. They serve other people, and that's at every level, and that's throughout the organization, not just attorneys. there has to be a feeling of service, that we're here to provide value to others, that we're here to help others. I used to think, hey, I'm here to be the world's smartest attorney. I'm here to win cases. I'm here to make arguments. I'm here to file the longest brief, or, whatever it was. But as I, sort of progressed, I started to realize, like, no. An attorney is here to serve others. That's ultimately what we are, right? We're here to stand in the shoes of another, to step up for them and to serve them. And that means different things for different clients. And we have to be able to attenuate, sort of ratchet up or down what we're doing to make sure we meet the client where they are. That's really important for us. So from the technical side of things, a great attorney is usually a great servant. They're responsive. They're communicative. They put things in plain English and they explain what they're doing so that their client feels well served. Of course, I'm taking it as read. I'm taking it as table stakes that they're a competent attorney, that they're not creating error, they're not making things worse than they need to be. But really, I see great attorneys as being great communicators, good explainers. A great attorney with the heart of a servant cares. They care. There's a fine line between caring and having enough commitment and enough, personal investment so that, you really are out there to get the best result you can get for your client. And of course, taking it too personally, right? So I do want a level of professional detachment, which I'll talk about in a second. But really that heart of a servant, an attorney who doesn't have clients, who's not serving a client, you're Ronin. You're nothing. Right? Without a client, an attorney is defined by the fact that we serve others. The only attorneys that I know that don't serve others are like law professors. Okay. Come on. The attorney's highest calling is to be of service to another. So our second value here at Lois is service. And I know that people are happiest. They feel most fulfilled when they're fulfilling that role of the servant. And the way it works too is internally. So yeah, that's in the work, right? In the way you represent clients. But service also works internally in the way we serve each other. Our internal barometer for whether or not we're doing the right things is always like, did we serve each other well? Did we care about each other? I care about the relatedness that the attorneys and the paralegals who work together, that they are developing. I want them to develop that comradeship, which is so important to having a good sense of community. I don't want people to be shallow or inauthentic. We don't really want people to be transactional. And we see that all the time, right? And so many attorneys grow that way. They grow to be self-centered, transactional. They take credit for other people's work and usually the work of their paraprofessional. But I see when an attorney comes forward and I say, hey, great result in that case. We're going to put that win on our company website. We're going to post that win. And they say, yeah, Greg, definitely, let's do that. Let's put that win on the website. But make sure you mention my paraprofessional, because he or she is the one who subpoenaed all the records and created an amazing medical index for me that I was able to use to cross-examine the doctor. Or he or she was the one who secured all the witnesses that I had to present at that trial. Or he or she is the one who wrote that brief, right? So, I can see that. It comes through in real life when people demonstrate that towards each other internally. So the first thing is I see people who are starting to act creatively and they're starting to get excited and they're starting to invest themselves in their work. The second thing is I see them working or acting with the heart of a servant and all of the satisfaction that comes with that satisfaction that comes with you're supporting someone else and you're seeing them succeed because you did a good job for them. So that service is that second value we always talk about. The third thing I said to the attorney who asked me the question of what does success look like, I said is success is advocating for others. Attorney's job here, and we're litigators, right? So this is going to be different for every industry, but for us, it's being a formidable advocate. Okay, it means standing up for someone who needs someone to stand in their stead and take care of them, right? It's making sure your client doesn't get taken advantage of in a court proceeding. It's making sure that the other side is not bending the rules or obfuscating evidence or misleading the court or making arguments that have no basis in fact or law. That is the role of the advocate, and that is a really fun role to take on. Our clients like to think of us sometimes as gladiators that They throw some money at us, they retain us, and then we put on our gladiator helmet and grab our shield and our sword and we just start stabbing people. But advocacy is a lot more than that. We have to make sure they don't get taken advantage of. Yes, we have to stake out our positions and fight for those positions. But advocacy also takes into account the fact that, we have to educate our clients, right? Our job does not begin and end in the courtroom. It's also making sure our client is making informed decisions. That's a huge part of advocacy, and that's a huge part of what we need to do for them. So internally, we look at, and I know attorneys are feeling fulfilled and are successful when they are developing into strong advocates. Now, the truth is, nobody's born to be a strong advocate as a litigator. That has to develop. Okay, now some people maybe have a higher sense of justice than others, and some people maybe it's a more natural position for them than other people. I got 3 kids. My middle kid, Sophia, she is super direct. She never couches it in, when she's got to give you direct feedback, she just tells it to you as it is. She's going to have no trouble being a strong advocate. She is really has a really easy job of just getting right to the point, making her position known and sticking by it, right? That's the definition of being an advocate. But for other people, it has to develop. And one of the ways it does develop is first you feel really confident about your position. And usually that comes from competence, right? You know your case, you know your facts, you know the law, you know the adversary, you know the judge, you've been in this arena many times. So it comes with experience. But as an attorney becomes more and more successful, I generally see their advocacy skills improving and that advocacy quotient improving as well. They just naturally become more positional. They become stronger advocates. They become more persuasive over time. And all of those skills are very, very important. And I love to see people develop them. And so that is always a hallmark of a strong developing attorney and someone who's going to be successful. Advocacy also is internal, right? I already told you the story about the attorney. I said, I want to praise you. I want to put something on our website that praises the results you've been getting. And the response to me was, please make sure you include my paralegal. Well, that demonstrates to me that, you have the heart of a servant and also you are an advocate for your teammate, right? And we see that, people that are strong advocates for each other, they're advocates for firm values, right? They're advocates for our clients inside and outside of the courtroom. That's when I know people are flourishing and are going to be successful. And the last thing that I said is being successful here means you need to demonstrate a high level of professionalism. And that's our 4th value. Our 4 values at Lois are creativity, advocacy, service, and professionalism. And professionalism to us means a couple things. First, it means you're invested in your own professional development. That means you're investing in your own learning, you're attending CLEs, you're going to workshops, you're participating in mock trial that we offer here, you're going to case roundtables regularly, you're taking advantage of partner office hours. You're doing all the things necessary to improve your professional development. So that's something that's really important that we really want to see, right? But professionalism also means, hey, this is someone who's working at a high degree of, has ethical behavior and is acting always in accord with the rules of professional conduct and is acting ethically and morally. Like, we care about that stuff. And the people that are most successful here are wonderful professionals. They're investing in themselves. They're acting ethically. And let me take it one step further. They also take care of themselves, right? Life is not just work. Professionalism means you're building up a definite boundary between work and real life. Like, your real life is out there with your friends and family and your pets, right? Like, that's real life. And real life encompasses fitness, friends, family, faith, all of those things. It's not just work. When I see an attorney who's just about work, who's constantly overwhelmed and stressed out, is not taking time off, doesn't have the proper measure of rest and retreat in their life, I know that their professional life is probably spinning out of control and their personal life is probably spinning out of control. So a big part of professionalism is developing that detachment. Now, earlier I said, I love it when attorneys are committed and they're invested and they care and they sink their teeth into a case and they really want to get a great outcome. But at the same token, they also need to develop a high degree of professional detachment. The outcomes we obtain are not personal at all. And we shouldn't go home and be upset, anxious, stressed out, worried, frustrated, disappointed, punishing ourselves, punishing our loved ones because of something that happened in a case. Like, that's just not a great use of our time, attention, blood, and treasure. But it's really hard to do, right? Here at Lois, we try to make sure that we always talk about professionalism in terms of course, high ethical standards, of course, doing a lot of self-investment in your professional development. But that third part of it, I think, is maintaining a normal work-life balance. Just because you're an attorney doesn't mean that this is all you are. This is not your entire identity. This is just a part of your life. This is just hopefully your work life. Maybe you make some friends here. That's great. Maybe you've got some comrades, some people that you're in the bunker with when things aren't going well. That's great too. But this is not your real life. This is not your only life, and this is not your sole identity. And developing that sense of boundaries, that's important. It's why we care about people taking their paid time off. It's why I remind people, hey, do you have any leave coming up? Are you going to take any? It's why we give people sick leave on top of vacation leave, because we want to protect that vacation time. I want people to have time away. It's also why we try to keep file counts low so that people can actually take vacations and have other people cover your work. I don't want your desk to be on fire. I don't want you to be stressed out about it. The people that seem most successful here, they take vacations. They take days off. They take paid sick and safety time to go to their kids' school events or to go to a parent-teacher conference. They don't seem like life is spiraling out of control because they're putting things in their proper place, and they have a sense of perspective about their work-life balance, and that's really important. So that question today that was triggered out to me was such a good question, and I was happy that I was able to answer it. Now, I did not answer it as long-winded as I did here, but I was able to answer it for them kind of quickly. I said, look, as successful attorneys here, they all look the same way. They all share certain attributes. My dad used to say that every healthy, happy family was kind of the same, it had some same basic attributes, and he said that every dysfunctional family was dysfunctional in its own unique way. And I believe that's actually correct, and it actually applies in a lot more arenas of life. At your business, and I'm running a law business, and I can tell you that a law business, I can tell when people are successful here, they all look alike. They all have a good sense of professionalism and also professional detachment. They're all enjoying being advocates, and they're advocates for each other. They all have the heart of a servant, and they enjoy serving each other and taking care of each other. And they all are experiencing the joy of creativity in their work and the joy of working with colleagues in a community that gives them regular feedback. Like the people that enjoy those things and are aligned with those values, they're going to be successful here. They're going to flourish here. And this place is designed for them. Now, whatever kind of business you run, and maybe it's a law firm, maybe it's not, can you say, here's what a successful person looks like here? All right, that's really important. I think it's such an important question to answer for people. It's such an important question for you to know so that, when you're reviewing people, when you're meeting with them, you're going to tell them, hey, I think professionalism seems like it's spiraling out of control. Or, hey, I see you doing the same thing in every case. Doesn't look like you're bringing your whole self to work. How come there's nothing creative going on? Or, and you can ask them these questions. You could say, hey, what'd you do this week that you're excited about? What creative ideas have you come up with this month? Hey, did you get any really interesting wins because you tried something new? Hey, when's your next vacation? What kind of rest or retreat do you have scheduled? Like, these are all questions that you should be talking about. So look, I think this applies to any business, anytime, anywhere, any place. If you can tell people clearly what success looks like in that business, and you can explain to them, these are the attributes of a successful person, I'm going to promise you're going to get a better outcome. You're going to attract the right kind of people to your business. You're going to be able to recognize when people are doing well, and you're going to be able to succeed as a company. Hopefully, those attributes, the successful people attributes, align with your company values. It's going to make your job as a business owner easier, and it's going to certainly make the job more fulfilling for the people that you intend to serve. All right, that's it for this week. Thanks for joining me, guys.
Thanks for listening to Running the Defense. Remember, while I am a lawyer, I'm not your lawyer. Unless we've signed something with a lot of small print and billable hours attached, there is no attorney-client relationship formed by you listening to this podcast. This podcast is for educational and entertainment purposes only, so don't take it as legal advice, unless, of course, it helps you win an argument at dinner. See you next time.